So you get your home under contract, and through the option and inspection and negotiations and repairs, and everything's in your rearview mirror. So you're home free, right? Well, not so fast. You still have the appraisal to deal with. In escalating markets like we've had over the last 4 or 5 years, this is a common problem that we're seeing with many listings and sales. The buyer feels like the value is there for the home, and they make an offer either at or above listing price so they can secure the contract. The seller obviously feels their home's worth the price that they're selling the home for, and yet the appraiser says, not so fast. So what happens now? Your agent calls you and you hear these horrible words that you never want to hear. The home didn't meet value. Your heart sinks and you feel as though all is lost. This is equally as bad for both the buyer and the seller because now the transaction is suddenly unstable and could be lost for both parties. So what happens at this point? In the past, you basically had 1, maybe 2 good outcomes, but there is now a third. We just performed this one this past week, and it netted my seller another $125,000 on their sale. So you might want to stick around and find out what that is and how it works. Hi, this is Kinn, and I'm with the Kinn team, VXP Realty, and we've been navigating the turbulent waters of real estate for our clients for 22 years. And I'd love the opportunity to assist you as well. When dealing with an appraisal shortage, I think it is imperative for both the buyer's agent and the listing agent to work together to try to solve this issue. This is where it takes a strong agent and a team, a good communicator, and someone that really is in it for not just the best outcome of their represented party, but for the whole of the transaction and those involved in it, and not just to win at all costs. For the remainder of this video, let's use an example of a $500,000 contract that only appraised for $450,000. If this happens, what's the first thing you do? Well, the first thing to do is have your agent immediately ask for an appeal of the appraisal. And in the case, if you're taking a VA loan, you're a veteran, thank you. This is called a Tidewater report. Why it's called Tidewater? I don't know, but that's what it's called. And there's a specific form for typically the listing agent to complete. No matter the loan type, what the agent should do is supply local sales comps that are specific to the type of home. These comps should be different than the appraiser used, but using the same exact guidelines that they established in their appraisal. This will give you a better chance of getting the appeal accepted and for the appraiser to increase their price of the property. If this appeal doesn't work and the appraiser stays with their original valuation, there are basically 5 options. The first option is what I call finding common ground. This is for both buyers and sellers to meet somewhere in the middle of the deficit. It is important to know that a buyer wants to still buy the home for any amount over the appraised value. They do have to bring that amount in cash on top of the down payment and any closing costs. In other words, they can't roll this amount into the loan. So if the buyer decides in our example to come up to $475,000 and the seller agrees to meet him there, the buyer would need to bring $25,000 to closing on top of down payment and closing costs. In this example, the sellers also are going to be hit with $25,000 less for their home. So they meet in the middle. It's a compromise. And in this compromise, they will both be able to create a win-win situation that they're both comfortable with. The second option 100% benefits the buyer. And this is where negotiation gets contentious and is typically followed by option number 3. The buyer says something to the effect of, the home is only worth $450,000 and that's all I can get my loan for and I don't have enough money to go above the price. The seller then usually responds with the third option, which is, I'm not reducing my price. You agreed to $500,000 and that's what you're going to pay. So now the contract is at a stalemate. Does anyone give in, or do you have to go to option number 4, which benefits no one? Termination, and the home goes back on the market. Well, not the Terminator necessarily, but you get the drift. I know it's not a laughing matter, believe me. I have been in many of these bitter back and forths, and they are no fun. But through experience and knowledge, we usually find a way to make it work. And recently, we accomplished a 5th option. This is 100% dependent on the lender and underwriter that the buyer is getting their loan through. But if the lender allows it, it is a way for the buyer and seller to both agree on the original terms and follow the terms of the contract and appraisal. So how do you do this? Well, the seller owner finances the second loan. So in this example, the seller would carry a second lien or loan for $50,000 for a period of time for the buyer to pay it back directly to them. All the terms of this loan are negotiable, including interest rate, if any, amount of years to pay back or months, and then if there's a balloon payment or not. This benefits everybody in the transaction. It's on paper. The buyer is able to close on the home of their dreams. The appraisal is followed and the lender is happy. And the seller is able to get their fully agreed upon price. They just may have to wait a period of time in this example to get the full $50,000 paid by the buyer. As I said in the beginning of the video, we recently did this for a seller client of ours. In this scenario, we had their property under contract for $1.225 million. Unfortunately, the appraisal came in low at $1.1 million. The buyer agreed to our offer of a second lien for $125,000 paid over the next couple of years at market interest rates. The alternative for the seller, if no agreement was reached, wasn't pretty. Go back on the market or lose $125,000. The buyer's options weren't much better. Lose the property of their dreams because they didn't have the extra $125,000 on top of what they're already putting down in closing costs. So we created a win-win for all parties to succeed, and both agreed to this creative way to get the deal across the finish line. There's also an extra incentive to have this part of the closing and honor the closing disclosure. The second loan is 100% enforceable and is part of the deed of trust. So the seller is protected in case the home was sold, refinanced, or the buyer just stopped paying. This is why it is important, whether you are a buyer or a seller, that you work with an experienced agent who knows how to handle all obstacles that come your way in a real estate transaction. I hope that person is me if you're in the DFW area, but if not, pop a comment down below and I'll do my best to help you out and hook you up with somebody in your market that excels at creative ways to get deals done. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our page. I promise we won't spam you, but what you will get is quality real estate information from someone that's been doing this for over 20 years. Thanks again for watching our video and have a blessed day.